Hello, everyone. I haven't done those videos in a while, and but this information has been kind of coming to me for over a year now. Well, about a year, I would say. And I've been getting more and more things in that regard, and getting more kind of like realizations as well as channelings and just inside information and tuning within, but also people that I know, my friends, all of it, they have been getting similar information as well. So I've been really pushed to share it finally. And even though some people may think this is kind of, crazy, and it has no scientific proof, I guess, or any scientific, insight. I just felt strongly to get this information out there because that might help some of you to understand what's been going on with the climate, and where we're going with that, specifically on the west coast of United States, but also in other parts of the country and even in the world. But I'm going to be talking specifically about my experience on the West Coast. As you know, the Coast has been under severe dry and massive fires in the last couple of years. Or, well, I mean, I'm going to be again talking over the last 2 years, or almost 2 years, that I've been here and my experience with that. So I have my list of notes that I've prepared just so I don't forget anything. So the first thing, and as you've heard from others, I'm sure, is, the earth is clearing itself. So a lot of people, they've used the fires or any other type of, natural disaster is this horrific thing. But I don't see it that way. For example, when something gets destroyed or there are a lot of fires, the forests are burning or all of it, I don't, I mean, I don't have that reaction anymore of, sadness or, how horrific it is. I'm actually very calm and at peace with that, knowing what's going on. And because when we're in this fear mode, and I've been there last year with the fires, I always struggled, to find my center where I'm like, in my heart, in my knowing, seeing the truth and knowing that nothing is going to happen, that this is just the way things are with the earth, and we just have to let the earth do its thing, while we are going to be protected and there's nothing to worry about. Because when we're in fear, our thoughts and actions, they're kind of like all messed up because we're coming to it from fear. So yeah, the earth is clearing itself, and again, like I'm sure you've heard it from others, that it's clearing out the dense energies where, like, so if there's a fire or a hurricane happening somewhere, it's because there's this density that needed to be cleared, and I've had it many times with myself where if there's energy clearing in my life, it needs to go somewhere. So it could show up as, something gets broken all the time, or, some chaos is happening because that charge, it has to go somewhere. So there's nothing wrong with, we just, with, the natural disasters, we just kind of have to see it as a natural way of life where the earth is doing its thing to, protect it. And the earth is going through a lot of changes right now, just, as we are going through them and as the whole world is going through them. So it's kind of like, looking at things from the higher perspective, if you would say, versus like, oh, like it's destroying my house, it's destroying my town, um, it's nothing like that. It's like on the more global level. And I'm just going to cross things out on my list. That way I know I've covered it. So yeah, when it comes to like destroying the areas, for example, again, this is how I see it from my own knowing. for example, someone's house was destroyed, or the city, or whatever, it means that you're done in this specific area. It was divine plan, you planned for it. The universe planned for it, everything was kind of done in cooperation. So that means that your work in this area is either done and you have to move on to like another area, which is going to be much better for you. I mean, yes, you're going to have to go through a lot of, ups and downs in terms of, getting insurance money if you had insurance, or figuring out like where to move and maybe staying with someone else during that time. But if you look at it like a new opportunity for you to like maybe leave the areas that you didn't really like, or maybe finding something that you like more, this is like a totally new life for you opening up, instead of sitting and being attached to like material things, and what you've lost versus what you could build with the new thing that's coming your way. And a lot of us are kind of resisting this, this new guidance. If we're being guided to go to a new area, for example, we're resisting because we want to be in the old. Like, no, this is where I lived for 20 years. I want to stay here. Another thing that I've seen is the fires, because we overpopulated the earth, and Earth has a self-regulating mechanism where, the storms or the fires, or I don't know, tornadoes or something else, they will self-regulate the Earth's population, destroying the cities and wiping out the whole city. So we overpopulated the Earth, and this is a self-cleaning mechanism to wipe the cities out. So the forests can grow again. So there's nobody there in this area because there's not meant to be a town in this area, for example. So yeah, it's like almost, the whole town needed to be removed because it wasn't meant to be there anymore. Again, this is why we're seeing the whole area is being wiped down, because they're no longer suited for that area. It's almost like, enough is enough. And it's almost like it's almost like with emotions, when someone is not um, and is not expressing their emotions, and then all of a sudden they're having a meltdown, and like all of it is coming out the same way with the earth. All that energy has been going into the earth, and then all of a sudden, like it hit, the limit, and it needs to go out there, so it vents. And the vent happens, through the disasters. Another thing that I was also getting and noticing is that there's a lot of garbage on the earth. And it's more and more now in the last year compared to the prior year, because people are going camping more, and people are, because of the restrictions, people are again going and spending time locally or something that's close by. But there's so much garbage around there. I mean, I'm going to campsites and trails which have the campsites nearby, and I'm bringing out, bottles of alcohol or cans, of alcohol, and people just leave them right there on the river where they've been drinking it. Not just one or two, like there are many of them, and there's sometimes people just leave it where they were. Some people just try to hide it, in the bushes. So over, the last several times I've been to the trails on the river near the campsites, there is a lot of garbage there, a lot of alcohol. It's almost like you can't go to the river anymore unless you have a cigarette, weed or alcohol. If people have been mistreating earth for so many years, and again, there is a limit. If you don't have respect for the earth, you're going to get the same back. So if, you haven't been showing and caring for the earth, and you've been living garbage out on the earth, and the earth is going to respond, and it's going to respond, again, in the way of natural disasters. It's going to wipe the cities out because people have not been respecting the earth. So this is another thing that I've been seeing. There's another thing that's been going on as well with clear cutting. People the companies were cutting the trees and all of that and destroying the earth. I mean, around my area, you can see some of the hills where, parts of the hill, like they're just bald. There's nothing. I mean, it looks ugly. It just breaks my heart to see that. And, and when they clear cut, they don't plant the trees the right way. So then they're more prone to the fires and all of that. So again, the earth knows what it's doing with the fires, but then people really messed it up. We kind of interfered with the way the earth was working with that. So that's another reason. It's like, okay, if you're destroying the earth and not showing respect, the earth is going to show it back. And so again, like we're wondering why it's wiping down the whole cities and all of it. Well, what are you doing to the earth? You're wiping down acres, of forest just so someone can build a nice house and all of it. I mean, everything works equally. There's a balance. So if you're, whatever energy you put out, you're going to get it back. Um, yeah, and like I said earlier, it's the self population where the populations are being controlled through the natural disasters. For example, people who are seeing the truth and what's going on, they are going to stay in the area because they know what's happening, versus others are going to be in fear mode. They're not going to like the area they're in because they're in fears that it's going to be destroyed. So those people are going to be taken out of those areas, because they are going to reach that limit of not feeling secure and safe in the area. So they're going to leave. So again, the West Coast is very overpopulated right now because a lot of people have been moving up here. And then some of those people now are leaving because of the fear of the fire and that their house is going to be destroyed and all of it. And so again, this is those natural disasters, the way the earth is doing them is like, doing them in specific areas to control the population. So it's going to force, the people to leave the areas, but then the new people are going to come in who are like of a better vibration for that area, not even better, but more, they're going to match the vibration of the area more. And they're going to like work with the weather, work with that energy, work with the area. So it's almost like an exchange, the old energies who are no longer suiting the areas, they're leaving. And then the new people who are better suiting the areas, they're coming into the area. So there's again this self-regulation in terms of population that's happening right now. So another thing that I've noticed is, and that's been happening more for me this year because I've been working with the areas in my area, a lot. But what's been happening this year is, so like going back to the fires last year, a lot of people, even spiritual people, they left the area because they didn't want to be in this. It was not comfortable to be in the smoke, so they left the area. But then there were some people who came in my area who were new, who were guided to stay because they needed to hold the energy. And I was also one of those who was strongly guided to stay. And I was here during the worst. And then I was allowed to leave when everything was better. Now this year, I was guided to go to the area. Sorry, my dog is drinking right now, so you might hear it. So this year I've been guided to go to the areas of active fires. Like I was, within like 20 or 30 miles from active fires. And every time I was guided to go there, that day, the wind was blowing the smoke away from those areas. So I was, in fine, clean air. And it's really interesting how I started thinking, okay, why am I being guided to go to the areas of the active fires? I also noticed I've been guided to go to the trails, the places where there's a thunderstorm. And in our area, the thunderstorm, it's very it's dangerous because it can bring lightning, and then lightning causes fire. So I would be driving and I would know that I needed to be on this mountain, and I would look and it's all, stormy and all of it and rainy, and versus I'm looking this way and it's all sunny and clear skies, and I'm like, can I just go there because it's nice over there? And it's like, no, you need to be up there. And I come over there and it's like lightning and thunder, and I'm like, oh my God, and I'm afraid of lightning and thunder. Well, lightning. But it's, yeah, very strong, like you need to be here. And every time it happened, like it kind of spared, the location where I was at. And so I started thinking about it, that I might be working with the weather and the energy of the weather and the storms and, the fires and all of it. And again, and then I learned that there were others doing the same, working, in those same areas and working with the weather. And that's how the natives have done it in the past. So we're going back to those roots of really working and helping with the earth, and the changes. And you also know that I've channeled stuff from Shasta when it had the fires, on the mountain. So it kind of goes together with that. So a lot of us are placed in those areas, and we are helping to hold this vibration, and we help the earth to hold the vibration, and we help with the fires. And I mean, I can't even tell you how many days the last week or so, because we have a lot of smoke right now. um the monitors, all of it is showing very high, where very bad air quality. And every time I go outside, I have clear skies right above my house, and all the smoke is being pushed around my area. I mean, in my area, I'm talking like several blocks. And where like it's almost like my area, like where my house is at, it's like in this bubble and it's protected and there's no smoke, because I can go outside. I don't have to wear a mask or anything, where just like half a mile down the road, it's super bad. So it's been really crazy. So even that is like, oh my God, I feel like I'm getting help, where I can do my meditations outside and all of it. Because yeah, and another thing is I'm also becoming very sensitive to the smoke, and to the point where I don't have to even look, online for like the air quality. I just know within seconds of being outside, and every time like I was spot on. Like I can just go outside and smell it, and I know like what air quality index it is, whether like it's 50 or 80 or 120 or 150, and so I just go based on that, because I know when it's safe for me versus not safe. I just go by my intuition and what I'm feeling. So it's almost like I'm being more in tune with the weather and like with nature and like with the earth. So that's been really interesting. Um, okay, so I did cover that. I did cover that. Okay, so another thing. Okay, so another thing that I noticed with the climate change, I mean, this is the insight I've been getting that kind of matches other people that I've talked to about it, is right now, so the earth is going through the changes, where right now we're in this like very extreme and not balanced state. The earth is in that state. It's purging, it's going through the deep cleanse. And so it's kind of comparing to like when you started your awakening and you were going through all those emotional things. There are like ups and downs, and so you were like not in a good mental, emotional, and physical state. So this is what the earth is going right now. It's totally not balanced. It's like very extreme, floods, hurricanes, fires. And even the areas who've never experienced any of the extreme weather, they're now getting that. Whether it's lasts for 30 minutes or several days, but you've seen it. So again, it's being balanced all over. And then it's going to change, where it's going to come to a more balanced point, and it's going to change to the in a way where there's going to be a different climate in the areas. Like, for example, the areas that experience severe dry out are going to see rain during those months. And the areas, that were like super hot are going to get like cooler temperature. So it's going to change everywhere. And those who see the truth, who are like helping with the weather, helping work with the weather, helping with, working with the earth and nature and all of it, who are tuned into that, they are going to stay, and they're going to help this process. They're not going to be in the fear mode because they see the truth. They're not going to like be, oh my God, like my house is not going to be there tomorrow. I can't live like that, and all of it. So those people who are in fear mode, they're going to leave. And then people who are like seeing the truth, they're going to stay. Or again, like I said before, the new ones are going to come in and they're going to help, with those areas. And, people are going to move like this. I mean, we're not meant to stay in one area all the time for the whole life. We're supposed to be kind of like those of us who work with the earth. We're supposed to like be moving to different areas. And, sometimes you stay there for months, sometimes you stay there for like many, many years. But I don't see us kind of living in just one spot for the rest of our lives. I mean, not all of us, at least. So yeah, it's so then the last thing that I wanted to cover is the birds. And again, like some of you know, I work with the animals, and I see a lot of animals around here on a daily basis, and I see animals sometimes that people who've been here for like 10 or 20 years never seen, or people who go and track the animals so they can take a picture for like a magazine or whatever. I see them just out of nowhere. And so I've been working a lot with like the hummingbirds and just other birds, and they always give me the message. So one thing that I noticed from the hummingbirds and other birds, for example, blue jays that we have here, is when we had our fire last year, about 5 days before the fire started, or maybe even a week, the hummingbirds disappeared. There's none of them coming to the feeder where normally I would see them, many of them throughout the day, every day. And hummingbirds are the type of birds that would stay near the feeder, or there's like a tree or a bush, where they're feeding off, they would stay near that kind of place, because they are going to be feeding off. They need to be feeding every 15 minutes. So I watched a movie actually recently about hummingbirds, so I got more insight about them. So yeah, they remember the feeders, they remember the flowers and the plants, and they come back to them, and they're usually in the area. So before we had our big fire last year, they disappeared 5 days or so before it, or even the week they disappeared. And I was kind of questioning, where did they go? Because we have them throughout the whole year. They disappear like March, maybe end of March through like end of June, when there's like so many flowers blooming in the city. So there's like a lot of that going on. So they don't need the feeders, but then they return. So they disappeared. And then about maybe a day or so before the fire, the blue jays disappeared. And it was like very, very quiet. Then when we had the smoke, and every time we have like really thick smoke like we had last year, the hummingbirds are gone. Again, they would be gone a day or so before the smoke hits. And the other birds would be gone as well, and like the deer and all of it. So now, after I've been able to track, the birds, so for me now, I don't check, like if there's a fire nearby, I don't kind of go by the monitoring stations or, whatever they're saying. I kind of look at the behavior and the animals and the birds. So if I see the hummingbirds are still coming to the feeder, I know that I'm safe. I know that nothing is going to happen because otherwise it would be gone. And that's how the elders, the natives worked with the land, they worked with the earth. They always looked at the behavior of the animals and the birds and all of it because they understood how everything is interconnected. So we need to go back to that. And because this is your best guidance. I know, for example, the hummingbirds are not going to stay here in the times of like thick smoke. They're going to be gone again, and they would feel it within several days of when it hits. So now when I look outside and I see them every day, even though we have smoke, I know that it's not going to get any worse than whatever we have right now, because otherwise it would be gone. And this is like my compass now, knowing like, okay, things are fine. I don't have to worry about it because, they're still here. So again, for me, because I'm still like connected to the birds and the animals, for me, it really gives me like this peace of mind, knowing that the birds are here and the animals. So that means that everything is safe. I am safe. My house is safe, and I don't have to worry about anything. Um, so yeah, I think that pretty much covers what I wanted to share in regards to the climate change and the fires. Yeah, and hopefully this information was helpful for some of you, because again, we're constantly working with the fear. And I've said it in my previous videos about, the flu, let's call it flu, that started last year, and how people were afraid of it because, and all of it. But it all comes down to fear. There's always going to be fear in our lives, whether it's the fear of getting sick, whether it's the fear of losing a house, or the fire or the hurricane, tornado, whatever. There's always going to be something that's going to put us in the fear mode. And every time, when you're in the fear mode, you lose your center. You are, not thinking straight. You're not making better, good decisions for you because you're operating from that fear. And I know again from my example, but when I tune in and I relax, that's when I become myself again, and I find my peace, and I'm not like worried, and I'm thinking, much better. I'm able to like exist and live a good life. And another thing that for me works, really well, again, I'm seeing a lot of people complaining about the smoke and how they're not able to get outside and all of it. But this is a time to go within. When the smoke hits, it's a time to go within. Like for me, I've done a lot of things, like a lot of catching up when we had smoke in the last week, because otherwise I would be out, hiking and doing all of that. But I really got caught up on things. I've been doing things that I haven't had the time to do. I'm kind of like starting on several new projects, and I take it as a blessing. Instead of complaining that there's smoke or that I can't be outside, I'm taking this time to catch up on things and bring things to life. So it doesn't feel like, I'm in a prison stuck at home. I mean, I feel actually good about it. And again, if I'm very blessed. Like I said, I can go outside and meditate because I don't have the smoke above me. So it's all how you perceive things. And if you live in the area that you no longer like, or that you just don't feel comfortable there, then that's an indicator that it's maybe you need to look into something else and move, because nobody wants to live in the location they don't like, because then you're not happy. And so instead of complaining about where you live and how you don't like the climate or, whatever. Think about where you would like to go, where you are going to be happy and feel safe. So this is like this is an opportunity for you to do that inside, check and look deeper and work, on your inner parts, like work on yourself. Look whatever comes up for you. And I've been there before because if you're constantly complaining about something and you're putting that, bad energy out there, you're going to attract more of it and you're not going to be happy. But if you're going to accept things the way they are, if you're going to see the light and, like good in every situation and see it as an opportunity, or if like a learning maybe lesson, then it's your perception about things is going to change. So, so yeah, I guess that's kind of where I want to live it at. And yeah, and if any of that resonated with you, or if you've been getting similar information or something, I would definitely like to hear about it because again, I've been amazed when I shared it with different people how they totally resonated and how they've been getting similar information themselves. So again, that's always nice to kind of like cross check it with others and see where everybody is at. So yeah, um, yeah, I think that's all. And yeah, thank you for listening. And I hope you're having a really nice day, no matter what happens outside. And yeah, and I guess I'll, talk to all of you soon. And yeah, so I love you all, and yeah, blessings.